What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Bulls ended up falling in defeat to the Cleveland Cavaliers away from home. We started the game off poorly. We had to scratch and fight and claw our way to come back in the game, and we actually did get our first lead in the game in the fourth quarter. However, a late run from the Cleveland Cavaliers basically took this out of reach and we fall again. So what is there to talk about in this game? Well, quite a few things, to be fair, but, you know, it's a loss at the end of the day. It's not going to feel pleasant. It's not going to be a happy time for the Chicago Bulls when you lose a game, especially when you kind of do see this Bulls team struggle for most of the game. It is what it is, you know. It's not a nice feeling. So we'll discuss as much as we can in this video. Before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls, their game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and your player of the game candidates. Now, firstly, I'd like to reiterate that this was going to be a tough game no matter the circumstances. Again, you can look at the injury list for Cleveland. You can look at the injury list for the Bulls. You can look at the guys out, the guys in. Cleveland have beaten us 6 times in a row. So let's not pretend that we're out here, you know, thinking, oh my goodness, we're just as good as Cleveland. We are not good enough to beat Cleveland, I guess, consistently. Let's put it that way. I think on any given night, any team can beat anybody, but Cleveland are the better team. With their players out and without their players out, they seem to be a better coached team. They seem to just have the matchup situation against the Chicago Bulls. They play very big basketball, bully ball, if you like to call it. They dominate the offensive rebounds, and today they were firing from the three-point line for most of the night. So it tended to be a pretty frustrating time for the Chicago Bulls. But look, I kind of get the sense, and I've said this before, the wins and the losses for the Chicago Bulls, of course, when you get wins, you're always happy, you're always feeling great, you're always feeling motivated, there's always extra incentive to kind of make a video speaking about how great the Bulls played. But there's always problems in the wins. Just as much as there's problems in the losses that we have seen today, there's problems in the wins as well. You can't just expect the Bulls to play perfect basketball. Perfect basketball doesn't always exist. There's always an issue there. And I said this in the watch-along, and I'm going to say it here. Our problems are the same problems. The difference is we lost the game. That's the only difference, because a lot of our problems were the exact same. The offensive rebounding battle was shambolic today from the Chicago Bulls, losing the offensive rebounding battle as high as we did. And look, that's Cleveland's strategy. That's Cleveland's priorities right there. Cleveland has always been a team that defensively wants to wear you down. They have the components to wear you down defensively, and they also have the components to out-rebound you. I think Cleveland out-rebounds most teams in the NBA. And today, they destroyed the Bulls in offensive rebounding. And that is just a situation we have seen far too often. When you lose the rebounding situation to the Warriors, San Antonio with 3 centers out, when you're losing the rebounding battle to the Houston Rockets, there's problems there for the Chicago Bulls, especially on the offensive rebounding side of things. That's been a problem in the wins and the losses. But that is a problem that haunted us big time today. Our three-point shooting was not effective today. I don't know necessarily how many threes we made, but I believe in the first half we only made 4. That's ridiculously bad. At the end of the day, that's a common theme for the Chicago Bulls, especially in the losses. It's usually when we don't make our threes is when we will lose games. We're talking about starts to games. Remember way back when at the beginning of the season we had very bad starts to games? I don't think it's any surprise that as soon as you start playing the big 3 in the same starting lineup once again, you end up having a little bit worse starts than you normally did. We had a bad start in the last game against San Antonio. We had a bad start to this game against Cleveland. Is there a surprise there? I know a lot of people are going to go straight to Zach LaVine, but I think it's a big 3 issue. It's not necessarily just Zach LaVine, but again, all 3 of them together, they just don't seem to work out very well for the Chicago Bulls at beginning of games. I mean, is that a problem that we're ready to have a discussion with? I think many people are. And then we continue to other things, you know, just the typical shot selection that we're giving up these days. We have not been a very good defensive team for a while. I mean, again, Cleveland scored 109 points. That's okay, but a lot of the games that we have seen the Chicago Bulls play, we are ending up conceding a hefty amount of points, not to mention the 140-point loss we gave up to the Golden State Warriors. So I think defensively we've not been very good. I think we had a great third quarter defensively, but not a great game defensively, if you know what I mean. So look, there are issues with the Chicago Bulls. And Cleveland just has our number. They have had our number. They've been having our number. So look, I'm sure we're going to verse Cleveland again. I think we've versed them 4 times this season, if I'm not mistaken. So there's going to be an opportunity to try and break that streak. But the more and more and more that I see Cleveland play the Bulls, the more and more worried I get. Because we're not dealing with a Cleveland Cavaliers that's fully healthy. We are dealing with the Cleveland Cavaliers with their starting point guard missing and their big man that they actually love to play bully ball with in Evan Mobley at the power forward spot. He's out of the game. So Cleveland are actually a little bit smaller than what they normally would be. It's pretty insane to think about if you ask me, but it is what it is. We lost the game in a pretty disastrous way. I didn't like our bench production today either. I'm glad that Drummond and Vooch got a little bit of time together to play in the same rotation. We did the same thing in the first game against Cleveland. We did it today as well. I thought it worked out a lot better this time around compared to the first game. I think the first game it didn't work at all. The second game it actually worked out pretty nicely. I think we made a couple of big runs with both of those guys in the lineup together. But yeah, same problems persist. Nikola Vucevic can't guard the pick and roll. The pick and roll coverages have been very lackluster these days. Whether it's drop coverage, we're trying to blitz it. I don't know what we're trying to do. Maybe we're trying to show and Vucevic has to get back, but he's too slow to get back. I don't know. I honestly can't even explain to you what our pick and roll offense or defense is these days. But it's not working, whatever it is. We're allowing the roll man to get a dunk pretty much every time there's a pick and roll. Jared Allen had a bunch of his points just based on rolling to the rim. And I felt like that was disastrous from the Chicago Bulls again. I hate Vucevic shooting too many threes. He shot way too many threes today. Again, considering that Cleveland were actually willing to switch in pick and rolls, Vucevic had a lot of opportunities in the post. And yes, he did take advantage of some of them, but a little bit too much threes when I think we should be working in the paint more with him in games like this. Yeah, and it goes with everybody else. DeMar DeRozan went missing today. Now, this has actually not been a problem for the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan has usually been there, usually been persistently good. But DeMar DeRozan only had 6 points today. He didn't take over in the fourth quarter like we normally see as well, so that's one thing. But yeah, just went missing today. When one of your key guys, one of your technically big 3 players doesn't show up to the game, you can't expect the Bulls to really win these types of games. If DeMar DeRozan had his typical 16, 17 to 20 point night, maybe the Bulls could have walked away with a win in this time out. We could have definitely used that extra 20 points or even that extra 14 points in the game. It could have been a big difference maker there for the Chicago Bulls, but it is what it is. We ended up crumbling and falling in today's game. Now, I guess to go into the must improve and the player of the game for me, I think the must improve has to be DeMar DeRozan. Look, DeMar DeRozan has some of his issues. Again, there's problems with DeMar DeRozan. Him taking over in the fourth quarter when he doesn't need to, I think it's a big problem. I think ISO and hero ball remains a big problem for the Chicago Bulls for the last 3 seasons. And even though for the most part the games are actually moving away from ISO ball, when it matters the most, we revert back to ISO ball. And I don't like that from the Chicago Bulls team. But DeMar DeRozan, that wasn't the issue today with DeMar. The issue today with DeMar is that he went missing for most of the game. 6 points, 3 assists on the night. It's just not a DeMar DeRozan performance. And I know for a fact we will not see that in the next game. Maybe not for a fact, but I know in the next game we'll probably see DeMar DeRozan respond because, yeah, a game like this is not typical from him. My player of the game, look, there are a couple of guys who got into double figures today, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm going to pick... Oh, it's tough, you know. It's tough. It's tough. I'm going to pick Zach LaVine. Just looking based on the stats, I think Zach LaVine was efficient, 7 for 15 from the field. He didn't do too much, but he also didn't do too little. And the second component you can put to that is Vucevic, but I don't think Vucevic played a great defensive game at all, so I don't want to give it to him. And I think Kobe White was too inefficient to get the Player of the Game award for me. I think a hard choice, probably not the most favorable choice for many Bulls fans. It is what it is, though. I guess my Player of the Game will go to Zach LaVine. And what do you guys think about this game? Do you think we can win the next game against Toronto? And thank you so much for watching. Drop a like and a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. I will see you in the next Bulls-related video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.